Now, the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State continues to reverberate across Nigeria as the controversy over the constitutionality of the declaration and the way it was approved by the National Assembly continue to jangle nerves. Many in Rivers State say the state of emergency has imposed a stifling authoritarianism on them and altered every single facet of who they are, physically, mentally, emotionally, cognitively, and socially. Well, now the governors of the main opposition People's Democratic Party, with Rivers State as part of their fold, have now gone beyond whining about all this like a muffled chainsaw to actually announce that they're going to challenge the state of emergency in court. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Senator Emmanuel Orker from the main opposition People's Democratic Party, or PDP, who was in the 9th Senate. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here.
A bit of context from us, from what we've heard so far about the state of emergency. I wonder where you stand on the kinds of messages that are emerging around the issue.
Well, it's a straightforward matter as far as I'm concerned. It's illegal. Okay, Section 305 gives the president the power to, resort to this measure. But it's a power that must be used very, very carefully. I don't even want to go into the legality or otherwise of whether the president can, bring this kind of measure to curtail what he says is insecurity. I want to settle myself on the issue of the suspension. Okay? The president, everybody who has taken a look at the Constitution, you don't have to be a lawyer. I'm a lawyer myself, but you don't have to be a lawyer to know that such powers are not in the Constitution. Section 305 or any other place in the Constitution that the president has that power. Incidentally, the president himself, when he was in the opposition, when he was an opposition leader, used to condemn such. I remember during Jonathan, when Jonathan established a state of emergency in 3 states in the Northeast, Jonathan didn't suspend the Constitution. Didn't suspend the elected officials. But what did Tinubu say? He said it was illegal. He said if you are talking about insecurity in the place, you cannot blame the governors because the governors do not control the security apparatus. That was his position then. So I don't know the road to Damascus convention that the president has had on the issue, that now he thinks you cannot just bring a state of emergency, but you can also suspend. I don't know. Really.
He's actually blaming the governor for the insecurity that he says
the issue that he himself had said, you can't blame the governor for insecurity because they don't control the apparatus of the security. So, but it's wrong, and I'm happy that voices are coming. It's no longer a political issue, because a lot of voices, non-political voices, are coming up and strongly condemning what is happening.
So, beyond the contention that the state of emergency in Rivers State is an unlawful act, the president, people like you saying he overreached his authority in imposing it without justifiable cause. The National Assembly, of which you were a member, approved it themselves. Did they violate the constitutional rules governing the method of approval?
Certainly they did, in my opinion. Like I said, I've been in the National Assembly for 16 years, 12 in the House of Representatives, and at a point in my stay in the National Assembly during the House of Rep, I was chairman of Rules and Business. So I can say a thing or two about the rules of procedure in the House.
Indeed.
And I've seen some of my colleagues come on air and try to justify the voice vote on the ground that Section 60 says you can regulate your procedure. But I ask myself, have they read Section 60? Section 60 says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the Senate or the House of Representatives can regulate its procedure, including the procedure to convene and of summoning and recess. Those are almost the exact words of the Constitution. So it is subject to the Constitution, and you cannot make any regulations or even law that will conflict with the Constitution and
or supersede the Constitution.
Or supersede the Constitution. Yeah. It will not stand. So to say that, because the Constitution says 2/3, how do you measure 2/3 by voice vote? I mean, it doesn't make any sense that the Constitution will talk about 2/3 and you are saying voice vote. How do you measure? Because there are 3 categories when you are voting. The nays, the ayes, and the abstaining. Those who are abstaining. Those are the 3 categories that you have. Some may be there, they don't want to vote either way, they would decide to abstain. So how do you ascertain that when you are resorting to a voice vote?
Absolutely.
You cannot use the attendance because you had the quorum and nobody shouted nay, nay, and therefore it must mean that everybody has agreed with that. That is not it. We've done that over and over again. Wherever the Constitution says 2/3, it means you have to resort to electronic voting or manual voting. We've done it in the National Assembly before. So with all due respect, I totally disagree with the National Assembly on this issue. If they could still have gotten the result they wanted, even by resorting to what the Constitution says, politics is about lobbying. Because I'm surprised that only a few persons from the opposition openly disagree with that, because I thought it was something that would be totally resisted by opposition members.
I'm going to come to that because that's a very important aspect of this. But given what you've just told us, and I'm glad you're a lawyer, you were a senator, you were a member of the House of Representatives, you were in the Rules Committee, so you really have your head around this issue in a way that I think can inspire confidence in whoever is listening to you, because you are an authority figure. How much has this sent up a warning sign that what happened last week was fundamentally anti-democratic? Because if you want to combat autocracy, which the president claimed was taking hold in Rivers State, would it not be better to show the strength of your democratic institutions and mechanisms and not be seduced by the same autocratic principles that you claim to be fighting against?
You have exactly made the point, as if that would turn out to be my answer. But even if the president had done what is completely right, that is, if the emergency, state of emergency proclamation was right, and even the suspension of the governor was right, and other elected official was right, the National Assembly, their role in the whole matter would completely invalidate what happened. Because you have not followed the Constitution. It's fundamental, and the Constitution, the spirit, the letters and spirit of the Constitution are there openly. You can't maneuver around it. It says by 2/3. You didn't vote by 2/3. Okay. So going back to this thing, that's why I use the word Road to Damascus Convention with respect to the president, because he had always identified himself with the other position that it is wrong. He did that eloquently. He was always fighting during Jonathan, when he was opposition leader. He was always fighting that it is not. And Jonathan did not even suspend any elected official, but he said it was wrong. So the point is that at what point did he now change his mind on the issue, and what informed his change? That's why I believe. I agree with those who believe that these are political maneuverings. These are clearly political maneuverings towards 2027.
That's an interesting angle, which I'm going to come to again in a minute. But given the size of the hit that the Constitution has taken from this, how do you think things will proceed from here for the next 6 months of that emergency rule in Rivers State?
Well, first and foremost, I've always believed that issues like this should be tested in court. Let's have, because some people are even citing, Obasanjo. You cannot be citing, you cannot be justifying an illegal action with another illegal action. So let the Supreme Court rule on the matter. If the Supreme Court rules, well, however one may feel about it, that is the position of the law until that day that the Supreme Court may reverse itself. For now, that is neither here nor there. What we see is pure politics. I agree with those who are saying that this is pure maneuvering towards 2027 because Rivers, as we all know, is a major block.
As I said, I want to come to that, but let me just get through these first, because we've seen governors from your party, the PDP, taking the administration to court over this. I mean, they've now gone to the Supreme, and because it's obviously the governors, states, it's a constitutional matter, so it goes straight to the Supreme Court. So hopefully it will be resolved sooner rather than later. How confident do you feel? Because we've seen the courts take a different, if you like, cooperating view of certain policies of government and against what many lawyers like yourself have argued are straightforward constitutional questions.
We're talking about governors from my party. I'm happy that they are waking up from their slumber. You know, I'm totally disappointed with the leadership of the party. The NWC, it's a total mess. And there used to be a time that the governors were the ones to take back the party from the brink. But for a long time since the elections, and look at the kind of mess some characters within the party took how they behaved during the election. Nothing has happened. No meetings were being held to look into those matters and all of that. They say it's better late than never. At least now the governors have woken up from their slumber and they are challenging the thing in court, which is what I always expected should happen. Let's hear, because it's the governors, they will soon, on behalf of their states, it will go straight to the Supreme Court. And we hope that before long, the Supreme Court would have given us a decision on the matter. So we have, even though some people will say, oh, we don't believe in today's Supreme Court. I'm not one of those that I have faith that the right thing will be done. But if they fail Nigerians, at least we know that that is the position that the Supreme Not has taken on the matter. But as it is now, it will be political interpretation. But I'm happy that those who are responding to that, who are condemned this, and not only politicians, you say this is a PDP versus APC affair. You have the Nigerian Bar Association, they are condemning it. A lot of civil society organizations are condemning it. So somebody should pause and listen. It's not yet late to pull us back from what is happening. The president can say, oh, now that, because ironically, this is happening soon after the Supreme Court gave its judgment, and the implementation of that judgment was on by the then governor. And then this happened. So you ask yourself, is it just about insecurity, or is there something more than insecurity? If it was about insecurity, the Supreme Court offered a leeway for the resolution of the crisis, and it was about to be done when this happened.
Well, let's, as I said, we'll come to that in a minute, but let's talk about your own party, the PDP, because I mean you're the main opposition party in Nigeria, and you said now how disappointed you've been with what has been going on in the party. And I remember you once saying that the biggest enemy of the PDP is the PDP itself. And you warned about the dangers of impunity. And you said that if, for example, the former chairman, Iyorchia Ayu, steps down as national chairman of the PDP, that the party will likely go into a deeper crisis. Would it be fair to say that your words have come prophetically true?
Well, I won't call myself a prophet in that matter, because it was obvious for everybody to see. When I said that, I was referring to the constitution of the party, which says that if the chairman of the party resigns, it will still be, the acting chairman will still be the person from that geopolitical zone. Just like I said, Iyorchia Ayu was brought down, but the thing is still in the north. So what I said was, if you want that thing to happen, you call an emergency meeting that can take care of the matter. People said I was raising dust or something, but exactly. So I don't see myself as being prophetic in the matter. I just observed what I thought was the situation on the ground, and thank God I've been vindicated on the matter.
Well, you're obviously a good analyst, because a good analyst looks at the parapraxis. And reads the runes from those parapraxis. But just returning to the bigger issue beyond the PDP's internal crisis. I mean, are we also seeing a declining political pluralism in Nigeria? I mean, you talked about the fact that this was all to do with 2027 and so on and so forth. I wonder if you're seeing a declining political pluralism in this country with the opposition, of which you are a part, hardly making a sound during that voice vote in the National Assembly. I mean, given that it ended up being a voice vote, you would have thought that at least some people would have said nay. But there wasn't a pipsqueak that escaped from anybody. And I mean, if that means that there's a decline of political pluralism, how much does that systematic deterioration of political pluralism bother you? And does it suggest a shift towards one-party authoritarianism in the National Assembly?
Exactly, that is what is happening. And it's unfortunate because this is happening under the presidency of Tinubu, who was in the vanguard of fighting for democracy during the military dictatorship. So it's unfortunate that it is on his watch, that we're having a decline of pluralism in our political landscape. You know, it's obvious. Take my party, for instance. A segment of the PDP leadership is controlled by the APC government. Whatever the government wants or the APC want, it can get some people within. I won't be surprised if tomorrow some people come out in spite of the official position of the PDP on this matter. I won't be surprised if tomorrow somebody comes out of the leadership and says, no, we agree with what the Tinubu government has done. Because that is what we have on our hands. The PDP has been divided in the leadership at the highest level. Even the governors, it's just now they are waking up to their responsibilities. Because it's the governors, because they largely fund the parties, they used to control stuff like this. They will call meetings and try to resolve crisis. But it was just piece of the graveyard, if you say. Nothing happening. Everybody was quiet. Now, thank God, something has gotten them to wake up and do something, which is at least it should be applauded at least, even though it's coming late in my opinion. But it's not too late, as to pluralism that you brought up, because we still have some time before the critical period of campaigning and election will come.
But in that time that you said you still go, I mean, how do you see the opposition changing the course of events? Because President Tinubu and his supporters seem to be getting incredibly more daring. I mean, we're looking at, the state of emergency. I mean, potentially there could be other things. And if they're getting more daring, by extension, they're getting more powerful.
Yeah,
and the opposition don't seem to be able to put any greater pressure on them.
I even heard some people from APC saying that should be extended to places like Osun, another PDP state. So if this thing is not resisted, it means that it could happen elsewhere too. And so I believe that if the PDP was united from the beginning, after the election, having lost the election, they had come together and get united, they would have offered a stiff opposition to some of these policies. And perhaps it may not have taken this the direction that we are witnessing today. So, but it's not late because talks are going on. You heard what the former vice president said. We are hoping that it will be done timelessly so that we get out of this road. Because I tell you, at the position that we are in now, only a measure can save us from becoming a one-party state, right? Because I can't see any character within the PDP now that will come alone and hope to unseat the president. Buhari, with all the 12 million or 10 million that he used to bring to the table, was not able to do it until they had a measure and he was able to win. So the way I look at the PDP today, the weak nature that it is in, would really need to join forces with others in the opposition ranks before you can talk of any serious opposition to the PDP, to the APC government.
And earlier you were talking about the motivation behind the declaration of a state of emergency. Of course, Rivers State is a PDP state. Is it painting a picture of a wider crackdown on the opposition in general as the 2027 elections draw near?
Well, I hope not. I hope not. But as for this, a lot of people have, they have come up with that suggestion that it's a political thing. And why I agree with it, I go back to the position of the president before he became president. He used to oppose this kind of thing. So if you are citing insecurity, and you had previously said that insecurity cannot be blamed on the governors because they don't have the wherewithal, they don't control the security architecture of their states, and therefore cannot be held responsible. Why are you blaming this man now? Why are you blaming him? Couldn't you have, and if you wanted to bring the, emergency rule, must you send the governor packing?
And that's why you think that there's something else motivating it.
Yes, because if it's only those reasons, it shouldn't have happened, knowing the pedigree of the president before now.
Right. So given your suspicions, where else could this go if the administration is now allegedly taking measures along the lines of emergency rule that we're discussing here? Are there other states that you are now fearful the APC government could take action against?
I've told you that some APC people have already, in the media, as reported in the media, are already saying this thing should also happen in Osun State, another PDP state. So, and Kano, another non-APC state. So, if indeed we are to go on with this analysis, you could say that, well, if this is not resisted, if this is not handled correctly, don't be surprised that tomorrow another excuse will be given and most states will go through the emergency rule that we are talking about today. That's why at least let the governors of the PDP state go to the Supreme Court and have the position of the Supreme Court on the matter, so that will put a stop in the event that they said it's not correct. But I can't see how would the position of the Constitution on the matter, particularly the way the National Assembly handled it, the voice vote. The voice vote spoiled everything.
Indeed. And clearly the political tension looking forward beyond the conspiracy theories and all the, allegations of, maybe the president and the APC are trying to do this, that, or the other thing to kind of better their chances in 2027. The political tension remains in Rivers State, and that in itself is a big worry to a lot of people, whether or not it's now being manipulated for political reasons. Clearly, that political tension, to solve it, will require very delicate negotiations. Who's got the diplomatic style in this country to be able to tiptoe their way through those negotiations to bring about a settlement? Because even the president tried and failed.
Well, I listened to a press statement by elders from Rivers, and they were accusing the president of not acting like a father to all. They accused him of bias. That's what they were saying, that this is a fight, is supposedly a fight between the godson and the godfather. And that according to them, the attitude of the president does not indicate that he's acting as a father to all of them. They said he was biased. Otherwise, the president is in the best position to resolve this matter. And I don't believe that would have come to this sorry pass if things were done differently, because just after the Supreme Court gave judgment and the governor was about implementing the judgment of the Supreme Court, then this happened. Now you are bringing a sole administrator, and the Supreme Court has said the government of Rivers State as it was not a legitimate government, as it wasn't legitimately constituted. That's what they said. Now we have a sole administrator, and the money has been released to him. And the reason why the money could not be released, the reason they gave for the money not being released to Governor Fubara was because they said he didn't have a state assembly in place. Now this man would determine the money, spend the money as he wishes in a democratic setting.
That's why I said that it is important, it is better to show the strength of your democratic institutions and mechanisms if you say you're fighting autocracy, rather than using the same autocratic principles that you claim to be fighting against.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense.
That's why I'm of the opinion that the best way to look at this thing is what Serap and the PDP governors are trying to do. And I think the PDP governors are in a better place to sue than even Serap, because the court could begin to talk about local standing.
Absolutely.
You know, but so as legitimate as that case is, their case is, they may come against that roadblock of local standard.
That's a good point.
You know, so but the governors can do it, and they will even be faster, because once the governors sue on behalf of their state, it's a suit between the Supreme Court, the federal government and the state, and the Supreme Court is the one mandated by the Constitution to look at such issues.
Indeed.
So it will be a faster thing.
On that note, thank you ever so much.
It's a pleasure being with you.
Senator Emmanuel Orker Jev is from the main opposition People's Democratic Party, and he was in the 9th Senate. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.